So there's a big thing happening this weekend, and it's the Ajahn Brahm's 50th sort of birthday. So it's almost like a birthday. When you ordain as a monastic, it's almost like your birthday. And I'm one of the many speakers. There's been a lot of speakers in BSWA, in sort of the main monastery. Ajahn Brahm is obviously teaching. I just wanted, before I start, is anybody here who doesn't know who Ajahn Brahm is? Living under the rock last 50 years? No? Okay, good. Because last week Ajahn Nisana was giving the talk, and he was talking, and then he asked, like, is there some people who don't know Ajahn Brahm? Apparently there's like most of the people didn't know who he was. So at least this week you most seem to know who Ajahn Brahm is. If you don't know, there is a lot of big talks being given from BSWA, and there was just yesterday I just looked online. There were almost like a Q&A or like discussion group amongst the monks and nuns there in the YouTube site. So like I said, today's my turn. Ajahn Nisana gave that last week's talk, and so we go on with the celebration. And today, after the meal, what time, Richard, we're going to have? 12 o'clock we start here, so we have the normal this talk, and then 12 o'clock, if you please come back there, we're going to have a live streaming from BSWA. We also have little things happening here, which I'm not sure yet what's going to happen. Okay, so keep rambling. Apparently you don't see anything. Okay, no props, I can do that. I'm sort of trained in this ramble. So I was asked the topic is my perfect teacher, Ajahn Brahm. So we were just throwing out ideas, what kind of talk should we give? I'll give a topic for the PSV, and I remembered from my past, there's a quite a famous book, it's Tibetan book, The Words of My Perfect Teacher. So I just borrowed my perfect teacher. And it's sort of suitable for me because there's so many Dhamma talks, Dhamma books I tried to read, and Words of My Perfect Teacher is one of them, which I never managed to finish. So I remember being a lay person, and I'm trying not to go too much of my own personal experience, but since it's my perfect teacher, I have to sort of bring myself into the picture a little bit. So way I met Ajahn Brahm, or how I met Ajahn Brahm, was it's exactly 20 years ago. It's coming to 21 years now in January. And he came to New York on his book tour. And that was the book of Opening Door Your Heart. And the title in the United States is Who Ordered This Truckload of Dung? So it's quite interesting, it's very suitable topic for the Ajahn Brahm, and he got it from, obviously, as you know, is from his father. Said that whatever happens, son, the door of my house is always open to you. And Ajahn Brahm took that, being when he was still a Peter, young person, that whatever happens, we always try to keep the door of our hearts open to others. And same, he's always being that way towards the monastics in Bodhinyana and towards everybody, really. So going back to that, the idea, so he came to New York almost 21 years ago, and by that time I was meditating, I was going with the different groups, and I was always trying to find books to read. At that time, 21 years ago, which seems like an ancient past, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have the internet, wasn't so readily available as it is these days, which is amazing. So I was always going to this certain bookstores in New York, in Manhattan, and buying these Dhamma books or Dharma books, depending what tradition I come from. And I'm sure I bought the Words of My Perfect Teacher, and I always buy these books, start walking towards my apartment, start fiddling through that, go to apartment, try to read it. 10 pages, 20 pages, and it's getting a bit boring. Struggle through, and 30 pages, I just put it in a bookshelf, and I will get back to that. And which I never did. And so there were so many books I kept buying. And so I kept going with these meditation groups, and I'm meeting people there, and I was talking to people, and which teachers do you listen, and which books you buy, and I remember I was very seasoned Buddhist. By this time, I've been a Buddhist for 6 months. And so I started in June, and this was now in January. And I was like getting a bit disillusioned with this Buddhist idea. So I was like, because I got really excited. I was like, this is the thing. I finally have found it. I've like, I'm a Buddhist. Great. I belong somewhere. And after 6 months, I was like, oh, maybe I'm not. So, that disillusionment, it's really disappointing because quite often, honestly, a lot of these books I read, they were a bit too esoteric, too technical, very like philosophy, history, which is not so applicable for us. They're from Tibet, or even the Thai teachers, they talk about how the life is in a village. I was like, I live in New York. This is not really applicable to me. Or they were just sort of fluff. I call them pink fluff. I'm not pointing my finger to any tradition, but some of these traditions which just they really do this just practice of loving kindness and all that, it wasn't me. These days, a bit more. I'm more. I understand the value of loving kindness, metta, and all that. But it really felt like pink fluff to me, and it was not me. I was actually almost like a punk, and so that was my look even. And so anyway, then somebody said there's this great teacher coming to New York. It's a monk, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. I haven't met a monk before, so it's going to be nice. At least from actually Theravada tradition, I met some of the from the Tibetan traditions. They're more readily available. So Ajahn Brahm came to there, and for his book launch tour, and just before he came there, they obviously published the book. So I went to I remember walking back to that same bookstore, and I was like, oh, it's going to be another Dhamma book I buy. You start, reading it, you're sort of excited, and there's going to be something interesting in the beginning, the forwards, whatever, and then you start reading it, it gets more and more boring, and you just put it in the bookshelf. So anyways, I go and buy this book, and I was like, oh, it's a bit of a waste of money, but hey, let's still keep trying with this Buddhist idea. So I go to the book tour store, buy the book, start flipping through it in the first pages, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I was like, well, there's a couple good stories there. Then, pay the book, keep walking towards my apartment. It was like half an hour walk. Keep reading it while walking, and I was like, this is amazing. I was like, wow, this is so easy to read, yet very profound. Most of you have read the book. It's like that, isn't it? It's like the open of door your heart. It's a very easy read because they're short stories. There's stories which they speak to us. They're very easy to relate to. They're very very profound in many ways. They touched our lives, many of us, so many ways. So if you haven't read it, I recommend you to get that book. So I kept walking towards my apartment, reading this book, and then I went to the apartment, sit down. I read the book straight away, like from cover to cover. But on that day one, it was like 7 o'clock that night. And I remember there was a 7 o'clock always. We had a meditation in the East Village where I lived, and I went there, and I was just like so invigorated. Yes, I'm a Buddhist after all, so maybe not all hope is lost. So I go there and I talk to the other people like, oh, it's amazing, you should buy this book as well. And I was like, I'm gonna go and meet this monk. So then I go and meet Ajahn Brahm. And it wasn't nothing special. He gave a talk, and the disappointing thing was that he kept talking about the same stories what he said in the book. And I later asked Ajahn Brahm when I lived with him after many years. I said, Ajahn, I was really disappointed. Why did you say the same stories? Didn't you have anything else to say? And he said, well, no, that was the publisher told me to do that. So he stuck with that. So they gave him like, okay, no, this is what you need to talk about. Talk about what you have in the book. So he kept saying the same stories, and was like, I guess this monk doesn't know anything else. But I found out many living with him many years and following him over now almost 21 years that he's got a lot more to say. Do I need to keep rambling? No, good. So let's go through a little bit of this. We were playing this. Is this going to be showing online as well? Good. We were playing this thing as a video before, and I thought like it better for me not to have this video playing because you're not going to be looking at me as a speaker. You'll be looking on the screen. So let's just go through quickly some of these pictures while we selected them, and then I go to static picture. Otherwise, again, you're just going to be staring at the screen and not listening to me. So, okay, my perfect teacher, Ajahn Brahm. Okay, oh, good. So that's a nice picture of Ajahn Brahm. I don't think there's anything special about saying. And, you know, one thing about saying Ajahn Brahm is 1 year we calculated how many days a year he's traveling. And 1 year he was traveling. I remember this was when it was his 60th birthday. This year was his 73rd, maybe. When we celebrated his 60th birthday, I was Bodhinyana, we calculated his calendar, and he actually traveled 110 days a year outside of the monastery, and then all the other things he does in the monastery. I was Venerable Sumangala just came from Perth from Bodhinyana, and he reminded me how many danas he does every week. When he's there, there's constant stream of danas coming, which he has to attend outside of the monastery. So he's very, very busy monk, yet he's very relaxed. Next slide. It's blank. Oh no, that's me. Somebody just thought, I didn't make this look. It's like, if there's cute pictures, it's not because of me. This was a couple of years ago. Somebody gave us beanies. It was really cold, so Ajahn put 2 beanies on both of our heads. And right, what's the next one? He's a very choky monk. Oh, this is when he was a young. So these are one of when he was a young monk in Thailand. This is a bigger picture. It's zoomed into that, so you don't see it. But you can see that he was really skinny, actually. I remember he telling us. Not so much these days. We had this Korean monk one time. We give him you don't know, but we give him a foot massage once a week as a junior monks. And we had this Korean monk. He actually ordained with us. Now he's back to living in Korea. And I remember one time he's saying his English wasn't so good. He's like, Ajahn Brahm is so big. It's like a mountain. So I thought it was quite fun. He said it very nicely, but it does look like a really large person when he's like, we're giving him foot massage. Okay, so these are the early years he lived in when he came to Perth. They were interesting thing. We have these big societies, look, we have a lot of things happening, retreat centers, building, and this and that. They started very, very small in WA. It must have been, imagine in early 80s coming to Perth, like an alien race in Perth. So it's amazing that how they started, how big this Buddhist society has grown. And honestly, really the big thing is because of Ajahn Brahm. It's amazing how one person can do something so big. He's got a lot of things being rewarded to him, but it is true. A lot of things revolves around him. Obviously, trickle down effect from Ajahn Chah and going down all the way to the Buddha. So the Buddha is the great man we are really always reminding. But look, today's the topic is my perfect teacher, Ajahn Brahm, really. Next slide. Okay, so this was the first kuti, first hut he built to himself. I've been always toying the idea of renovating this, being a building monk. And what happened a few years ago, there was a big bushfire quite a long time ago now in our monastery in Serpentine, Bodhinyana. And even same with this kuti, he wasn't using that time anymore. But the kuti was there. So what he did in early days, it's half a water tank. They cut it in half. And then that window which there in the front, because I talked to him about it, it's like he made that window, the door is just, it's like they really used the cheapest thing. The walls underneath the half a water tank, they bought some train sleepers and he just put a tarp over it, a piece of plastic, so the water wouldn't run on it. But even before that, he was really proud of this, because before this, he was living on a door. There was just a door they got, and they put on these trestles, and he was just sleeping on that. So he's a very ascetic monk. Even these days, I remember going to Bodhinyana, 2010, 2011, I ordained as a novice. I think. Oh yeah, that picture is going to come there later. He was still sleeping. Like, look, he was 60 at that time, and few years afterwards, we have these thin mats here, and these are actually thicker. What we have these blue mats in Bodhinyana, which people use when they eat. And Ajahn Brahm had those blue mats, and he had 3 of them, and that was his bed. And he wasn't a young monk anymore. He was over 30 vasa when I moved there. Definitely over. Sorry. So he's 50 now. So he was almost 40 vasa monk, 40 years as a monk. And he was sleeping in these 3 mats, and you go there sometimes in the morning, and you just see how he's moved, and the 3 mats had moved under him. Yet he just kept sleeping like that. And even these days, he always talks about he's got the cave, and a lot of times that the thin mattress he's got is very moldy, but he just keeps living like that. Okay, so early days Ajahn Brahm. So people ask sometimes, why do I put so much effort myself into building and all those things? So it's partly because of these things. Ajahn Brahm was a really big builder. He put a lot of effort into beginning in just physical labor. Yet at the same time, he's got a very scholastic mind. So this picture of that concrete mixer was his toy or his friend. Nobody else could start. That's a petrol concrete mixer, and the story is that nobody else could start that concrete mixer except himself. He said one time all the other monks were trying to start it, and in the morning they just couldn't. And Ajahn Brahm said he just came and gave it loving kindness to the engine, and it just pulled it once, and it bam started. But yeah, he did a lot of backbreaking work in the beginning, and he actually did really hurt his back in the beginning. He was physically quite sick when he was working so hard. So this is another picture of Ajahn Brahm in his cave, famous cave, which there is sometimes bats in there. And one time he was saying he's got 3 bats, and one of them were cricket bat. It's sort of English humor, I guess. So okay, so that's the book. Most of us I got into following Ajahn Brahm, the Opening a Door, Your Heart. Such a profound yet easy to read book. And the interesting thing is, like, he wrote those stories in just some pen. And he wrote that after he came back from his he did a 6 months retreat by himself, and after he started to. I hope I'm getting this right. I might be telling you about porcupines. But he started to, so he could get his brain going, so to speak. So he wrote these stories, and he said he could write a story a day. And then just amazing when you see the quality of his handwriting. It's flawless. It's absolutely, amazing how he did that. No mistakes at all. Okay, so then there's other non-famous people there. So that's my ordination. I did that. So that's my novice ordination, 2011 must be, yes. So Bhante Bodhidacha and me, we ordained together. There's other people there, Ayya Nirodha, who's now been a senior nun in Santi. And at the end in whites, there's Ayya Karunika now, and she's the abbot of Santi Monastery, and my sister is actually there in the background, and that's Bhante Bodhidacha's mom there, I can see that. And that was in our city center. Okay, so that's me getting my angsam, the thing. They just put this thing over your shoulder. So that was there. First, they wanted to put that picture. Okay, so here I'm in the robes, just fully my ordination, and I can see my mom is sad looking. Oh, so sad. My son is ordaining. But the interesting thing, Ajahn Brahm always makes a really big thing about these ordinations. So novice, and he's been the teacher who's been teaching me this. Sometimes you don't even know what's an important teaching, and he always tells us, it comes from the suttas, that wherever you ordain as a novice, that where you should be always bowing down towards that direction. And another one is where you become a stream mentor. So wherever that happens, you should be always respecting that. So I should have a compass, I'm pointing towards Perth to city center. This is where I ordained. And okay, so this is a Parimokkha. I'm not sure why this picture was chosen, but Parimokkha is one of those. I think this is another ordination actually. That's why there's cameras there. But the Parimokkha is one of those things where Ajahn Brahm is actually being very. He's a very, I wouldn't say strict monk, but he's a very diligent with the monastics in Bodhinyana. And some, many people don't know that there is a certain kind of thing which Ajahn Brahm has, and he's got a really high respect for Dhamma and the Vinaya. The Vinaya being in the training, and the Dhamma, the Buddha's teaching. And for example, in this was one of the halls Ajahn Brahm helped to build. And this is what we call the Sima hall. You can see the Sima stone in the corner there. And we always have our recitation, the rules, which we do fortnightly. And one time Ajahn Brahm said that he was really sick. He had a really high fever, yet he dragged himself into the hall and he was just leaning against one of these walls while they were doing the recitation of Parimokkha. And this is it comes down from the suttas. The Buddha taught these things. Ajahn Brahm has really taken many of these things into his heart. He's a very, very diligent monk. A lot of you see Ajahn Brahm as this public figure. He gives good talks. Obviously, he's a very compassionate. He's got all those sides. Yet, in the monastery, he's a very secluded monk. He puts an effort to come and meet us. For example, tea time. We have a tea time between 6 and 7 at night time. He comes there every day. He doesn't need to do that. Yet every night he does that, just so there's a moment of relaxation in the monastery. Because rest of the time we are supposed to be hermits. He built a Bodhinyana monastery to be a group of hermits. We all scatter into these kutis. You come there afternoon and hopefully you don't see anybody in the monastery. I love the fact that people come to Bodhinyana and they said, "Where's the monastery?" They park their car, there's the car park, there's a toilet behind, and there's like, "Where's the monastery?" And you're like, "You in it. This is it. We don't have fancy buildings. We don't have all kind of gilded roofs and many, many things, which is outwardly looks like a monastery. The monastery is within our hearts. We create the seclusion. The monastics, we're supposed to live in the kutis, in the huts, in the forest. And it is Ajahn Brahm's idea. We are always, quite often there is these opportunities where people come to me, come to the Ajahn Brahm or the Buddhist Society. Look, we want to create a stupa. We want to donate a statue. And we always turn them down. We don't want to make the Bodhinyana this into a tourist attraction. The hall is there and it's mostly empty. We have the Buddha statue. We don't have the stories, Jataka stories on the wall. We don't have this and that. Obviously, we have the certain external, outwardly expressions. Like we have the Buddha statue there, but we don't really want to make it in a tourist attraction. The monastery is there for us to practice. And one of the people who really practiced, who's very diligent, is Ajahn Brahm. He goes to many places in the world. He comes to here in Melbourne, to Buddhist Society. When he comes back from these trips, he walks to his cave and you just hear this clunk. There's a heavy door in his cave when he goes, and you just, like, literally, I've heard it so many times because in the kitchen, and he walks up there and you just hear, and after 5 minutes you just hear this clunk, and he locks himself into the cave and he stays inside there. There's no windows. There is no any kind of fancy things. It is just a very simple cave. There's a mattress on the floor where he sleeps and meditates on that mattress. Nothing else, practically. Few bats maybe. And he stays there day and night practicing, even these days. It's absolutely such a inspiration. It's sort of like, well, he's doing it, I should be doing it. He's one who puts in the as a senior monastic, as an abbot, as a teacher, he's the one who sets the golden standard. And it's so important for us to be trained in that. You see somebody, you respect that person because you know they are doing themselves. It's not just they speak certain way and they behave differently. So he is one of those people. This is going well because I can just speak on this, it just gives me all these ideas. Okay, this is where we started SOS. Now it's been way too long. Hopefully when is our opening ceremony? Opening 27th of Jan. Yeah, please be there. We put our hearts and guts into it, and blood and tears being shed to build this place. This was the opening ceremony, so it's funny. He loves sprinkling holy water. It's a Thai tradition, and he enjoys it because it's just so much fun to do it. And if I remember a few times, even in this line, it's a long line. We did this sprinkling of water, and I'm holding the bowl next to him, holding the water bowl. And he enjoys it because it's with the kids as well, because the kids are giggling and all that. It really brings him joy. It really uplifts him. But once in a while he cracks a joke. Where it's like in this line, few people's down here, and then he's just like he's whisking on this bald man, old elderly man. He's got a bald head, and he's just giving him water, giving him more and more. And then he said at the end, "And this will make your hair grow." I don't know it helped, but at least. It was a good effort. Okay, so this is the Dhamma hall in the monk's side. So he came there a few years ago. People are wearing masks. So it's such a special occasion. It really feels like an occasion when he comes. Like people gather, and there's this kind of instant, almost respect. It's weird because I've seen so many people, even just tradies, come to Bodhinyana. There is certain kind of respect when they see Ajahn Brahm. He doesn't demand respect. He doesn't expect it. But there is a certain kind of aura around him where people find him easygoing and they respect him. And then so this is where we went to look at the plans. This was again when we were really starting. He came first time. And it's interesting to see Ajahn Brahm with the high-vis vest. Next one. Okay, here we're touring, me showing, this is where it's going to be. And now luckily I can see that it's actually all of these things are there. So that at that time we just had the pipes on the ground. And they're working with India, our architect, who's really helped us a lot in this project. Doing the chanting, again, we do a lot of ceremonies as a monastic. But it serves a purpose. Somebody like Ajahn Brahm, he could start saying that, look, we don't need to do all these ceremonies. But and these days more and more, he cuts down on the ceremonies. But he still puts everything he's got to do these ceremonies, and they are important part of what we do. And that's India and Rohan now. Like I said, the architects have really been helping with that retreat center built, and that's the monks vihara where we live, not live, but that's our offices there. And this was Ajahn Brahm's kuti in Newbury. Ajahn Nisarno's kuti almost these days. He's been living there now for so many years. But the idea was that we built him a kuti so he can always come to Newbury, and it's a tradition in our where like in our tradition it's almost like a way they do that, so you can senior monk can always feel like welcome into the monastery. And we made a special. It's a slightly bigger kuti, and I'm very proud of that because I designed that kuti. So again, I shouldn't be talking about myself so much, but. That's it. It's a nice kuti. It turned out well. And this was Vesak. Was it last year? Year before? I can't remember. Things blend into year before. And it was the coldest day ever. We were freezing when we did the bindabat, the alms round, and yet he was just giving these talks and people were shivering. But one thing interesting on Ajahn Brahm, I think because he's so choppy these days, he's always warm. He's never, you never see him wearing socks. He's always like, he's the one who's like the one of these warm-hearted people, literally and metaphorically. He's got really warm heart. He can just endure a lot of coldness. And a lot of people are not like that. So he is joking around. There's a photo opportunity. So he's a interesting thing is, that's another thing where he's been putting a lot of effort. It's the fundraising in recent years, and he gets actually a lot of criticism for that. It's interesting. Even though you do good, no matter what you do, you get criticized. These fundraising efforts, we all benefit from it. You know, having whether the Newbury Monastery or SOS Retreat Center or Jhana Grove in Perth or the Nuns Monastery. I remember he was raising funds for the Nuns Monastery. He was really putting a lot of effort. That was about that when I went there, 2010, 11, 12. And I remember him coming back. He was like, he was gone for a month. He does these amazing tours where he goes to, let's say for Indonesia, for example. And Indonesia, all the big cities are, you just have to hop from city to city, right? You have to fly from city to city. And so he does these things where he does 12 days in Indonesia, for example, and he gives 14 talks. And every talk is in a different city. So he's always flying to another city and giving another talk. And you can imagine like you getting older and he's getting older, yet he's still doing that. So he did this massive tour, and I think that time he went to Europe, and then he went to Malaysia, and maybe even Indonesia. He came back from one of these fundraisers, and he was for the Nuns Monastery in Perth, and he was tired. Like, I haven't seen him that tired. And he was, that time he was about 60, and he said, "I'm not a Superman." Yet, he goes back to his cave, you hear the boom. The cave closes. When he goes into the cave, he locks it. By the way, he never locks the door except when he's there himself. I don't know what does he think we're gonna go and steal him from there. But then, so he goes there. In couple days, he's like normal. That's another thing. It's just literally his meditation is so good that he can just let go. He can just relax so much. And it's not like I'm exaggerating. All the monks who live with this, we can attest to this. Within, day 2, he's normal. Like, he's within the time zone. He doesn't look so tired. It's his ability to let go, to meditate, which we all have the ability. We haven't developed it yet, perhaps, as deep as him. But it's another example where it's just sort of like, what does your perfect teacher give you? Example, it can be done. You don't get born with these abilities, but somebody shows you, I do this. Look, and there's nothing special about it. I do it, and he just does it. And you can just that fact of seeing somebody in real life, not reading from the books, not giving a wisdom from the ancient people. That fact that you can see somebody who can be jokey like this, coming to Perth here in Melbourne, do the fundraising, yet come back, not just leave all behind, look tired, couple days, fresh as anybody. It really is amazing skill. And I think we don't appreciate enough of that thing. So that was the cold Pindabad, the freezing Pindabad when we did year before. This is like a treasure hunting. Oh, that's the Ajahn Brahms. Okay, so this was actually here in Box Hill when he does the at the end, he does the sadhu sadhu, and it gets a bit cheesy at some point. And it's like when he keep repeating these things, it was just sort of like, come on. But you sort of get into it because like, okay, he's doing it. But it is very cute when he does these things. And these days he's instead of doing Anjali, he does he does this kind of thing where the kangaroos do, and he puts his 2 paws together, and it's like, look, it's cute. You just have to give it to him. So that's him. Honestly, it really is him. He's not putting up this thing, putting up like a face for public. Even was like us living him day in, day out. And we all know when you live with somebody, there's no surprises after a couple of years. You live with your husband and wife or mom and dad. It's like, you know them. So same, we know him. And that's him. He honestly is like that. Obviously, he's not so talkative in the monastery. He's not so outgoing, but he's just jokey, and he's a very easygoing monk. And I've said it a few times here when thumbs up, and he's really supportive of us monks. He really respects a lot of the Sangha, and he's really uplifting us. He keeps us uplifted, which is really important, because we look up to him. But there's something about when somebody's so, it's just that fact that he's very easygoing. It's just so relaxing to live with somebody. You're not threading on eggshells. You're not worried that somebody's gonna, say something bad about you. He's always got the best interest in his heart. And that's part of the thing where open up your door of your heart. It is that thing where you're always open for people, even if the others are in bad moods. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You allow them to be like that. He doesn't scold somebody being in bad mood. So I remember, I said this in some of my previous talks. I remember fuming in my kuti. I was like absolutely livid. I was like nothing. I was like, I couldn't sleep, and I was like so angry, restless. Don't really know why I was like that. I was just like, and I was like, oh, this is horrible. I don't know why I'm doing this. And I was just like walking. I always take these kutis, which are the furthest away from the kitchen. So I remember going to the kitchen towards the breakfast, and I was like, still just like, oh, like this is just so horrible. My mind just doesn't know what it's just giving me so much grief. And then I was like, I went there just in front of the kitchen, going into the breakfast, and I saw Ajahn Brahm coming there, and he said, "Hi, Mudito, how are you?" And I was like, I'm all right. And then honestly, just that thing, he dissipated it. Just like him being at ease. It's like, it's not so bad. So that's one thing actually. It's as a teacher, which it's amazing from somebody like a senior teacher. Again, it's not so much about. It's obviously we got a lot of wisdom. We all can say that, like there's a lot of wisdom we get, but that's another amazing thing is that from a teacher, when they are putting out this easiness into the world, you feel at ease. And even, I guess, from his talks, I don't watch so much of his talks these days. I've sort of overdone it over the years from our city center. But there's this kind of just easiness from him, from the talks. And then you can just sort of like, yeah, it's all right. And that's another thing I remember when I was a layperson, and there was this period of time when I moved from New York. I moved back to Finland. We lived with my mom and dad for a while before ordaining. And I was always waiting the talks. I was always waiting for the talks that Ajahn Brahm comes online. And I remember during the Vasa, he doesn't give the talks, and there's that 3 months period when there's no talks. And I was like waiting and waiting, like, come on, I need these talks. And after 3 months, he comes like, I feel normal again. Just that relaxation, it's so important. This is Chanakra. We did something small. I would say this is maybe 7-8 years ago. He's pushing wheelbarrow. I bet you he wasn't doing anything with it. But it's like a photo opportunity. We're just like, Ajahn, take the wheelbarrow. We were pushing the wheelbarrow. I'm sure he pushed it like 5 meters after this. No, he's a very, very diligent with work. Okay, we do a bit of a photo ops these days, but he did a lot of work. He pushed a lot of wheelbarrows, and that's part of the Thai tradition, but that is just him as well. More water blessing, and it's outside of here. Me and Ajahn Brahm and I. Come on, are we coming to the end? Okay, here we're looking. I'm going. Okay, so let's just leave here. This is apparently is a cute picture. So we leave that as a static picture at the end. So Ajahn Brahm and me. So. Great, we almost got into the end of the talk, so I don't have to make up so many other stories anymore. But What is a perfect teacher? Why did I take the topic? We all have teachers in life. We come from sort of different cultures, different traditions almost. We all have a certain kind of teachers which come to our life at a certain time. In Buddhism, we have this idea of rebirth and samsara. We go from the cycle of samsara, for we get born again and then again and again. And we really revolve around, I'm not sure if it's the same people, because it gets technical with the anatta, with the non-self, how does the rebirth process works, what gets reborn and all that. But there's a certain kind of attraction that when you find Dhamma, the Buddha's teaching, for example, you cannot turn away from that anymore. You cannot forget something when you've seen something. And it's the same with the teachers. You sort of just gravitate towards certain teachers. And that's what happened to me with Ajahn Brahm. He was my favorite teacher, or my perfect teacher rather. I've met a lot of monks before that, after that, monastics, monks and nuns. I've met a lot of other lay people before that. These days, not so much. But there's a certain kind of attraction, certain kind of almost like magic when you meet a person who you can really respect and who you can trust. So it's not just whether it's Ajahn Brahm or you. Obviously, a lot of you should say it's the Buddha. Sometimes the Buddha, the teachings don't speak to themselves. We need to have somebody who gives them life, who puts them into this, what we are doing right now. 2000, what year is it now? Huh? 24, is it? Okay, good. We need somebody like a mouth, give them the vessel, like bring them back to life again. If we were just to say, these are the teachings, go and study it yourself, it's good enough, we don't want to alter anything, even if I'm speaking, I'm going to alter them, so it's better that you speak, you read them, make up your own, understand what the Buddha was saying. It doesn't really work like that. We need to have a certain kind of teachers who explain to Dhamma for us, who keeps it alive, so to speak, who can open our hearts to the fact that this is how the samsara is. This is how the world works, so to speak. Because it is actually quite scary when you start looking at it, that the teachings of the Buddha, they get not just complex, but it is certain way it's quite scary to not exist, for example. A lot of people say, I don't really want to go there. I don't want not to exist. Existence is happiness. That's what we think. It's a very deeply seated idea. But if we have somebody like Ajahn Brahm come to us, says, don't worry about it. It's not scary. It's not what you think. And they put it into perspective. They keep leading, guiding us in the way. It happens automatically. So in that sense, it's been a tremendous blessing for me, which is, it's weird to say. Like I said in the beginning, I was not really geared to be like this, to talk about something like a high blessing or loving kindness. But it is automatic process, and it's been shown to me by Ajahn Brahm. Obviously comes from the Buddha, but he put it in the way where I could understand it. If we have books where we think we should read, but we never do, or we take a little snippets here and there, but we don't understand the whole context, the bigger picture, which he has given to us, the bigger picture matters. Not so much of the words or the sentences, the big picture. It doesn't become, it's not so daunting, it's not so difficult. And it's not just for you or me, it's for the whole world to really to understand and relate to. The Dhamma, as Ajahn Brahm's teacher, said, it doesn't belong to Sri Lankans. Dhamma doesn't belong to Buddha's teaching. Doesn't belong to Thais or the Cambodians or Vietnamese or Finnish or who we are, all these traditional, all the people we have here. It belongs to all of us. It is accessible, as the Buddha said. It has to be accessible. And these teachers, our perfect teachers, make it accessible. So have a respect towards your teacher. That remind yourself once in a while, this is how I got again into the Dhamma if you lost it a little bit. This is what kept me going. That's important. And I've given talks here about Anusati, the reflection. That's part of your reflection you can do. And why you should be doing this reflection is because it uplifts your mind, it reinvigorates this interest in the Buddha's teaching, in the Dhamma, in the way the universe really works. So contemplate these teachings. It's not like we elevate them into a certain kind of position. It doesn't mean that. It is there, this kind of reflection, anusati, to uplift our own minds. They just serve a purpose for a while, and obviously you have to do the work. We all have to. But if we don't have living, breathing things to show us the way, it is really difficult. So we all keep at it. We're celebrating Ajahn Brahm's 50th year as a monk now, this weekend. And I think that's enough for me today. So thank you for coming, and thank you for listening. Sadhu, 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 sadhu. Well done.
Thank you, Ajahn.
No worries.
That was great. It was really lovely hearing from your experiences about Ajahn Brahm. We'll go to Q&A now, and we'll alternate between online and in-person questions. Might start with an online question to kick us off.
Okay, get it going. Yeah, sure, thanks.
So, Ajahn, can you please tell us about some of the key donors of the monastery and their contributions that could motivate many other lay practitioners?
The key donors. Okay, so who should we put? Sridhar has been very good. No, okay, look, how should I put it? Key donors are the people who are, if you're involved and you keep at it year in, year out, those are the key donors. So yes, do get committed. But I mean, look, you all have different kind of abilities. Paul drives us here today. He's involved with it, he could have just stayed home and do something probably not as fun, but something else. We have Dr. Chaya this morning who, checked my tummy. I have a tummy problem. And, he's involved in that way. We have, monastics, we do our role. And we have Savitri asking the 5 precepts for week after week. And those are the key donors. You do your thing. And if you don't live here and you cannot physically get involved, then you do the donations online. You can do just offer the food, which keeps the sangha going. And it's really is that the tradition that we have kept, that we do the dana. It's such an important thing. If we lose even that fact that we don't, the monks, we could cook for ourselves, or we just go to a restaurant to eat. Look, we lose a lot. Even for us monastics, it's important. I tell people sometimes they come to monastery, you feed me today, but you are actually keeping the Dhamma alive. I take it to Finland, where I come from. If you don't feed me, well, I wither away, and then there's no Dhamma in Finland. Perhaps there is, but it is up to you, all of us. We keep at it, and you just do the best of your abilities. We inspire you, and we worked as a team. I cannot get enlightened without you. And you cannot practice without us. It's all that, working together. So everybody's a key donor. I don't know who's not key donor. Even if you come here first time, you're very important to us. Okay.
Thank you for the talk, Ajahn.
No, wait.
I have a question. I think you have a very beautiful name, Mudito. Which means like when you're happy and I'll be happy too.
Yeah.
That's a very beautiful say. What about like if someone is not happy, what would be your reaction that should be like?
Yeah, if you're not happy. So what? Yeah, it's a common question. How do you develop like You could even say that like how do you develop mental well-being? It's like if you have a mentally well, that is happiness actually. So you can think of it that way. You just sometimes have to rephrase it. One way I would say, obviously again, like a lot of these things come from Ajahn Brahm, but he said get involved. Be part of the Buddhist Society, help others, whether it's Buddhist Society or something else. Don't just think that you do your work, you earn money, and then you can get happiness from watching YouTube and TV and listening music, playing badminton. Did you just come from badminton class?
I'm sorry?
Did you just come from badminton class?
I'm about to go for a badminton after
so
this.
that's that. I don't know just how I said it. That adds into that. Badminton adds into your well-being, and you know because you're doing something physical, and it does help, brings you happiness, and you're doing together with others. But so all these things add into it. So if you don't feel happiness, don't think you playing more badminton will help. But it adds into it. So it's a mixture of many things. But honestly, helping others helps you. That's an amazing thing, and that's partly why it's so important as monastics that we do these things, because it keeps us going as well.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Yeah.
Great. Second online question. We call this religion Buddhism for the Buddha. Another option would be common sensism for the Dhamma. Could we call it Kalyana Mitta-ism for the Sangha?
Yeah, agreed. Next question. Was that a question? But no, it's a very nice. But yeah, Dhamma. It is actually Dhamma. Sorry, before you go on, Dhamma is a nice to translate Dhamma different ways. Sometimes it's just like Dhamma. It's like it's a Pali word. It doesn't really mean. It's like it's the Buddhist teaching. No, it is all these things. It is like a common sense. It's the way the world works. What the samsara is, you can translate it in many ways. It's applicable to all. Yeah. Yes.
Just listening to that question and contemplating the need here for more community development, enhancement, activities, I think. Last Sunday, and I think this is the way for people to get really to develop happiness, is if they could get involved in, say, a community development group where we actually have activities here more than perhaps for a while, that bring people together. Now, last Sunday, the Dharma School had a fantastic activity where the parents and students and a lot of us came along, and I'd like to suggest if that person wants to speak to me or to Padmini or to Indra, who's the citizen president, we had a meeting not long back about trying to get people back together. So that's just a suggestion, because I think it's really important.
No, sure it is. Yeah, and he can take you play badminton.
As well as playing badminton.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Are you up to that? Yeah. Well, that could. It's true. Anything else? There's a question in the back. Okay.
Morning, Ajahn. Very thanks of your Dhamma talk. I can't remember Ajahn Brahm's name. Apparently similar to some religion. I think B is Buddhist, H is Hindu or something, and I have forgotten the others. Ajahn Brahm.
Yeah, I forget that one. Like, because what she's referring to when people ask is like, can you spell your name? And he says, then he starts spelling it. It's like I forget. Ajahn, do you remember that? B for Buddhist, R for what? A Roman Catholic. A for what? Huh? No, what's the A? Anglican. H for Hindu. M for Muslim. No, I don't think it is. M for Yeah, might be Muslim. So that's how he spells his name. Yeah, it's part of the. Yeah, it's a bit of a joke. Yeah.
I've forgotten.
But that's interesting. Okay.
Thank you.
I was gonna say something more about that, but yeah, no, it's he's very jokey. It's just like I said, it's a bit of a dad joke most of the time, but like bit, but it's still funny. Yeah, if somebody's doing it. Yeah, you could. Let's try. Oh, should we have it online? Is there anything online?
Yep, we've got one question online. Is there such a thing called perfection in Dhamma?
I'm under massive pressure because Ajahn Isarno's here and he's the senior teacher. It's like, I don't want to say anything wrong. Is there such a thing as perfection? I'm thinking in Pali, perfection, nothing really comes to my mind, perfection. I mean, Ajahn Brahm has been really nice with this thing. It's like 70% is good enough. Whether it's for yourself or everybody, don't expect too much from others. So it's like lower your expectations. Perfection in Dhamma, nothing comes to my mind, unfortunately, from this second. But it's interesting idea. But Dharma, yeah. Ajahn Isarno? No? Arahant is perfected one. The Buddha, yeah. Sorry, I'm going to repeat yourself to microphone so people online can hear Ajahn Isarno. So yeah, you're right. That's where we have the word used in certain times, like fully enlightened. Arahant is perfected one, or the Buddha and the Arahants. Yeah, the perfect ones. But in that sense, in Dhamma, there's not really like the Dhamma is, deep and it's pure but I don't think they use perfect. Yeah. Let's continue. Like, I don't have nothing coming. Yeah.
Thanks, Ajahn. Just one quick one. What's your most memorable lesson from Ajahn Brahm?
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's hard to pinpoint something. What is the most memorable? But boy, sometimes when he hits, it's well, good or bad, and it's one thing comes to my mind sometimes is Ajahn Brahm out of nowhere. He just said, Mudito, be flexible. I was like, I thought I was flexible. And then I have arguments with somebody, I have disagreements or opinions, and I was like, I'm right. And then this thing comes to my mind, Mudito, be flexible. I was like, I don't want to be flexible. It's such a, and when you have respect to your teacher, like for me, Ajahn Brahm, it's like, what's the most, and when they tell you something like that, be flexible, it's sort of like, it just sinks in. It's somebody else could just like, mom tells you, be flexible. He's like, yeah, whatever. But, he tells you, be flexible. And it's like, I've really taken it at heart, and different people and different monks have different things. But that's for me, one of the things. He just these one-liners once in a while he comes and what else could be, but I mean that it just comes to my mind. I'm sure there's many others, but then this kind of thing, we're just it's not so important. It's just like, honestly, is that 70%, meaning going back to that, it's just sort of like you think something is very important, it's like, it doesn't matter so much, just be at ease with it. So because we tend to be very have strong opinions. For us, let's say how the Dhamma should be, or my way is right way, or the monastic rules or something. It's like, just be flexible. And it's a one beautiful thing, but it comes through Ajahn Brahm and from the suttas, is that harmony is very important. And then he always emphasizes that it is from the opening a door your heart, that one of the stories in the book, that which is more important, that you're right or that we have harmony, which is more important. And then it's the chicken and the egg, chicken and the duck story. And then if you don't know that, just go back to the book and find that story. But what's more important is harmony. So always try to lean towards this, like harmony is very important in life, and that goes into your own mind as well. Live in harmony with yourself. There's so many cool things, yeah.
Great. Next online question. Ajahn, can you please explain emptiness and how it affects our daily life?
Wow, yeah, okay. It's great that we get these kind of like easy, short question and answers at the end, and this is going to be the last one. I have to, sorry, but we have to go for lunch now. The interesting thing is, like, literally I was thinking about the Brahm, Brahmavamsa just before here, and I just put his name into Sutta Central. And there was one sutta came about this the emptiness. The Buddha was saying the true Brahmin thrives towards emptiness. That's like nothingness there, and it wasn't explained too well there. But the emptiness and the concept of sunyata is really, it's an idea of non-self. And I've given talk here about it, and I'm sure other monks as well. But just think about it. Think it of, like, really don't take the idea of self. Wherever you see the self, it's just a mirage. It's not. It's an image what you're creating into something. It is actually empty of nature. There's nothing there once you start looking into it. You can get technical with it and this and that, and other traditions hold this idea very highly of the emptiness, the idea, but just take it as wherever you see self, it's empty of something. Don't make self into something. So that's an easy, short explanation, and that's what I have to say now. So let's go and have a lunch, and thank you for all this, and